Hey guys, welcome back to the Bhūta Yoga Academy. If you're watching this video, then you've probably made your way through the elemental model. This video is for those who are now entering into the third eye and having passed through all of the different stages of practice and development and cultivation to arrive at the place that we call pure mind. And the place of pure mind is the place above the senses. And so if we look at the third eye, it's literally above all of the other sense organs. And this is the place that the yogi then arrives at. How do we say? It's the realm beyond the senses. So what does that mean? It's a realm of intuition, of insight, of inner vision, of imagination. And it's really here that the light is received from beyond the intellect, beyond the ego, the light that is descending from we could say cosmic intelligence. It's coming in, and then the third eye is receiving that light. And it's really fascinating because if we think about, there's some cool science talking about how the third eye is actually it can perceive light frequency. And I've been like wondering, what does that mean? And I first learned that, I was like, we always hear about the third eye, and there's even the quote in the Bible, first there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that's one of the biblical quotes that talks about the mystical science of sound. But we also have the Bible quote, "Make thine eye single, and thy whole world will be filled with light." I believe it was Jesus that said that. We work through each of the steps and the levels of the chakras and the elements and the different principles and the different qualities that relate to those areas. And now we get to the third eye, and the question is, well, what are the qualities or what are the characteristics of the third eye? And just as I was sharing a little bit earlier, we have inner vision, we have insight, we have intuition. Again, it's the realm beyond the senses. And so it's the place that we can perceive information that is not in the format that we are familiar with as per through the sense organs. The practices and the tools and the teachings related to this area, they are more so about the preparation, right? And so like the arrival to this place, the place of pure mind, is the energetic cultivation of the yogi. And so all of those steps, bringing ourselves into a asana that is both firm and easy, learning how to circulate and internalize the life force, and so it's no longer dissipating and escaping. Once doing that, once we've cultivated that inner circulation of energy, then the senses no longer are gravitating to the outer world, and they start to withdraw inward like a turtle pulling its limbs into a shell. At that point, dharana, being able to hold the mind fixed on an object, concentration, that can happen because our energy is now yoked. It's now, we've harnessed all of the different threads of life force and can have like a laser beam of the power of the mind, at which point dhyana, absorption, can take place. The subject and the object can be only those two things happening. And so it's the mind and then the object of meditation. And that's the realm of pure mind, when the mind is completely reflective only of what its chosen point of focus is. Because the mind, is the interesting thing about the mind is the mind conforms to whatever the focus of the mind is. And so it's important to understand this because this has a basic influence over our entire physiology. Whatever we focus on, we become. And so the mind conforms to the object that it is attentive of. And with meditation in the path of yoga, we learn to use our mind to, we learn to imprint our mind with what is known as our ishta devata, or our object of divinity, that which we are devoted to. And so that's an object of meditation, and it's personal to each person, because what we choose to focus our attention on when everything comes into a single stream of consciousness, what is that thing that is captivating enough to hold our attention while we're channeling all of our energy into that. We can have pictures of saints or beloveds or Jesus or an idol or a god or a goddess or a beautiful picture of nature, whatever it is, that is a symbol of our devotion. And then our mind, it becomes imprinted by the laser beam of focus that takes place in all of these steps that I was mentioning. And so dhyana, absorption, takes place when the subject and the object are completely linked. And it's mind and object and nothing else. Yeah, that's sort of the final step of the path of yoga, because after dhyana, subject-object, there is a merge that takes place, and then it is only the object that shines forth. That is known as samadhi, and the state of indivisibility, right? When there's no longer a self-reference, there's no longer an identity that is part of that situation. It is just the oneness taking place. I say that the dhyana is the final stage because we have to arrive at that place of pure mind, and having all of those previous steps well integrated once we arrive there, so that there can be the final journey. And so samadhi can happen in a moment, and can happen just like, a microsecond. There can be extended states of samadhi, extended states of deep absorption into the oneness. It's important to realize or consider about this, that while samadhi is seen as the sort of the goal or the fruit of the path, and the reason for that, I believe, is because when we arrive at that space of remembering our essence, remembering the consciousness from which we come, experiencing that state, the realization of that state, it's inherently transformative. It changes us, because it's no longer a concept that we are all one, right? It's no longer a concept that we're connected to everything. It's an experience and an embodiment to some degree. What we look to do through this path and over time is we basically just accumulate time in that space and accumulate the imprint and the memory of that. And so those final stages, we call them the inner limbs of yoga. Bahuranga, the outer limbs, and then the antaranga, the inner limbs. The outer limbs are the manipulation of the life force, basically, like the manipulation of the body and the posture and the breathing and the concentration. All of that stuff is the external ritual that we do. And then the internal ritual, once our energy is withdrawn inwardly, and there can be an inner experience or an inner ritual taking place, where we then offer our senses to the fire of the one inside of us. That's why it's known as a sacrifice, or they talk about how there's an internal yagya that takes place, or an internal dhuni that takes place, because we offer all of the contents of our mind and our... Dang, I was really on to something there. So I'm going to pick up where I left off, talking about the internal sacrifice, right? And so when we're talking about Tantrik Hatha Yoga, we're talking about the actual ritual-based movement, breath, concentration practices. We call it a ritual because it's a devotional experience, right? To get to a place where we can really offer ourselves to the fire internally. And that fire internally, we know of it as Kundalini. And Kundalini is considered symbolically a fire because it corresponds to the transformative potential that exist inside of us, right? The ability that we have to transform. And so all of these practices, all of the different stages of the process lead us to a point where our energy can be harnessed and concentrated to a certain extent to be able to transform. And these are the densities of our mind, the densities of pattern, the densities of habit, of conditioning. And so each of the stages, working with the elemental model that we've been doing, we look at, okay, can I be stable in my posture? Can I be easy in my posture? Can I apply the right amount of effort to what I'm doing? Not too much and not too little. Can I be sensitive to the breath and to the movement and the ripple of the breath? Can I turn the attention of my ears inward? And this is, we're talking about really coming into subtler and subtler levels of the practice. And so no matter where we're at in the journey, the steps are laid out and there's a map. And by understanding this map and understanding this, I call it the elemental model, we can identify what's needed in each moment and identify through the set of tools and the practices that we have available to us how to give my system what it needs so that I can arrive at a place where I can really make that final offering. And treating sadhana as a daily ritual involving all of the senses, all of the aspects of the body, even all of the limbs of the body, physically speaking, like even the hands and the feet, I can then yoke. One of the definitions of the word yoga means to yoke. I can yoke and bind and harness all of these threads of energy together to create a unified stream of consciousness and energy. And with that unified stream of energy and consciousness, I can penetrate through the veils of ignorance, of suffering, of anything that is basically holding me back from living a life of just total, radical transparency and authenticity and creativity and joy. And I like to call this point here at the third eye, that's like the beginning of the path of the soul. And it's the beginning of the path of the soul because from this point, I am responding to the light that's coming into me. And I am creating from that place as opposed to reacting to the imprints of life that are outside of me. So it's a really fun journey. It's challenging. There's many pitfalls to the process. And it's possible. And so with that, I bid thee farewell and enjoy the process, enjoy each of the steps of the journey. Make sure you review the different videos according to each of the elements and the techniques, and keep on practicing. With that, thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you for more practice in the future.